Our speaker is the Chief Economist and Senior Vice President of Research for the National Association of Realtors. He creates NAR forecasts and participates in many economic forecasting panels, including Blue Chip and the Harvard University Industrial Economist Council. He often speaks at real estate conferences throughout the U.S. and has been listed by USA Today among the top 10 economic forecasters in the country. We are so honored to have him here today to talk to us about the real estate trends in the U.S. We are honored to introduce to you Dr. Lawrence Yun.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Every time I come to Colorado, what a spectacular view from the plains to the Rocky Mountains. This is my first trip to Colorado Springs, so I'm very grateful for Jake Gupta's invitation, and the scheduling worked out, so I'm glad to be here. I've been to Denver many times, Fort Collins once. Several people mentioned this morning that they brought the weather to welcome me come here today. But I don't mind the cold weather when I come to Colorado. There is one chart in my slide which will demonstrate why people across the country want to move to Colorado. Maybe 1 or 2 year short-term fluctuation, but the long-term trend is clearly people from other states want to move to Colorado. If the temperature in Colorado is 10, 20 degrees, it is cold, but you are used to it and you can make fun out of it. If temperature is 10 or 20 degrees, the same temperature in Cleveland or Detroit, believe me, it is freezing. The title of my slide is Recovery to Normalcy, because the housing market underwent an unprecedented cycle. Last time home values declined in such magnitude was back in the Great Depression, but the Great Depression was certainly a unique event, non-comparable. 25% unemployment rate. Right now we're in a great recession, not a depression. We have nearly 10% unemployment rate. A very difficult time, but we have not seen the swings up and down in the home values in this magnitude ever. So this was a unique time of the bubble burst. Colorado Springs, I would say, was much more moderate bubble and burst, but the loose credit underwriting standards, which was the principal cause, because historically there's always been a natural checks and balances to assure that human nature do not overextend what they're capable of. Everyone wants to have a good home, dream home. But if someone wants to buy $500,000, it was natural to say, well, show me your income. Let me see if you have the financial capacity to repay the loan, and let's see all the documentation. So there was always checks and balances to say that, well, right now you don't qualify for $500,000 loan, however, we can give you $300,000 loan. So many people started out from starter home, then over time they built equity, then they traded up and traded up. So that was the old-fashioned way. You earn your way to the top. But what happened during this recent credit market bubble was $500,000, you have a heartbeat, no problem. So you had a case where people overextended, and it was because of the credit market bubble that led to the housing market bubble, and certainly that once that trigger occurred where people just could not repay the higher resetting mortgages, and everything began to crash downward, and it began to snowball really fast. A very painful time. But right now it appears that we are bouncing along the bottom. And it's just a matter of question of trying to return to normalcy. Is there a new normal? And is the new normal much lower than the past normal? Or what is it in terms of return to normalcy? Because that is what we want to see. We don't want to see a violent fluctuation in the market. There's always a natural fluctuation. We live in a free democratic society. People have choices when to buy a home, when not to buy a home. So there will always be natural fluctuation associated with it. The interest rates changes. There are some job losses here, job gains here. So there are fluctuations, but we don't want to ever see this huge violent up and down that the recent housing market cycle underwent. So let's look at the charts and see whether or not we are now approaching normalcy and what that normalcy really means. First, let's see what the consumers are saying today. So this is by the way, I believe this PowerPoint presentation will be available to you from the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors in some way, and I certainly give permission to it so you can arrange this. For some of you who want to take out one or two slides here and there to maybe talk with your clients. What are the consumers saying? Well, the consumers are saying that things are rotten in this country. But this is what consumers always say when there is a recession. So if one looks at past recession, 1980s recession, people say, yeah, things are awful. 1990s recession, yes, things are awful. So during a time of recession, people don't feel good and they express that. So they say, I don't feel good about it. So consumers are not feeling good about their present condition. This is asking a question about how are your finances today? How is your job situation today? Is it easy to find jobs? And so those present condition questions. So this is expected because we are in a recession. Now what is somewhat unusual or different this recession is how people feel about the future. Americans are resourceful individuals. They always say, well, things may not be fine, but I believe in the future. I know I can work things out. And things will be much better in the future. My children will live a better life. So Americans always have that optimism about the future conditions. Even Forrest Gump, one of my favorite movies, he will say, stuff happens. Or he would use other words. But he keeps on running. He said, you know, bad things happen, but you keep running because you know things will turn better at some point. So let's look at the chart what the consumers are saying about the future, their future expectations. And this is what we are. So it is off the low points, so people are beginning to feel a little better about the future. But what is interesting or different is that if we compare the current high unemployment rate of 9%, 9.5%, compared to the last time the economy was at this level, 9.5% unemployment rate. And that was back in the early 1980s when the unemployment rate was. So for the same unemployment rate, people's view about the future today is not as great. So back in the 1980s, when there was 9.5%, people said, yeah, stuff happens, but I believe in the future. I'm very optimistic about the future. But people are not really saying that today. They're saying, yes, future, I think is decent, maybe good, but they're not saying great about the future conditions. So this is somewhat of a different thing, and whether or not this will hold back some of the consumer enthusiasm about making a major purchase. And the home purchase certainly falls into that category. One mystery in today's economic data is this chart. There's two charts. One is corporate profits, the green bar charts. And the white line is business spending. Business spending is always greater than corporate profits because there are many small businesses that want to borrow money. So they're not part of the profits, but they want to borrow money, start a business, and then expand. One looks at Microsoft. Bill Gates and his partner, starting out at a garage, during the 1980s recession, said, I believe I have a product that will really make the society better off. And at the same time, it will make me better off as well. So during a recessionary time, he borrowed money and created Microsoft. And before you know it, 30,000, 40,000 job creation, mostly in the Seattle region. One looks at FedEx. It started during the 1970s recession. Few people, and before you know it, they are a global delivery company. One looks at even all the way back to the turn of the century 100 years ago, General Electric, founded by Thomas Edison, who believed that education is overrated. What is really important is just sweating it out, just working hard, trial and error at it. Created General Electric at the recession. And before you know it, General Electric has thousands and thousands of workers. So companies do get created during a recession, and companies borrow money, and they expand and move forward. What is puzzling about this chart is that if one looks at corporate profits are now back to their past prior peak, or in fact, it may actually be surpassing right now. So as more data come in, companies are raking in cash. They're raking in money. Yet they are sitting on it. At the same time, small business entrepreneurs who don't have corporate profits to tap into, they go to the bank, want to borrow to start a business. Banks are very stringent about who they lend to. So small entrepreneurs are being held back. So what is puzzling about this is that there is cash, yet cash is not being deployed into the economy. And one asks the question, why? Harry Truman got fed up with economists. He asked, okay, tell me what to do. And every time he seeked economists' advice, economists would say, well, on the one hand, it's going to happen this way. On the other hand, it's going to happen. And he said, I'm one-handed economist. Just give me a straightforward answer. Well, today I would say there are two camps of economists trying to explain this graph. Two camps of economists. One camp believes that Washington is the problem as to why this is occurring. Government regulation, potential tax burden in the future, healthcare legislation, which may be good for some people, may not be good for other people, but from a business point of view, it is an additional cost of hiring people. So because of so many things coming along, also the financial regulatory bill, 2,000 pages long, there are many things to lessen the future financial cycle, the credit market bubble. But it also has many pages which essentially says, we will form a committee to determine the rules. In other words, the rules are not set, so people don't know what the rules are. So given this uncertainty coming out of Washington, businesses don't know what to do, and hence they are raking in cash, but they are hesitant to deploy cash. So that will be one group of economists who say the reason why you have this situation where businesses are not spending, even though they are flush with cash, is because Washington is creating this uncertain, cloudy environment. The other group of economists, on the other hand, is that Washington has to be a solution. Because the reason why businesses are not spending is they look at the consumers and they see that consumers are not optimistic about the future and they don't want to build something and be stuck with inventory that cannot sell. So businesses are very hesitant to spend money because they know the consumers will be hesitant. So the only way to get the economy rolling is if the consumers are not spending, businesses are somewhat hesitant, we need to have government do more spending for infrastructure. Therefore, government will be part of the solution to get the economy going, and only then will the business spend more. So these are the arguments that the economists are debating back and forth as to this. But one thing is clear. If business starts spending, and the economic growth will be much faster, job creation will be much faster, and we will reach the normal point much faster. So it's just a question of when the businesses will spend. But as to how business spend, is it Washington facilitating that, or Washington getting out of the way? That's a point of debate.